Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our lunch lab today. I'm Sally Delisle, co-owner and director of trainings at Childlight Education Company. Our mission is providing wellness education to create happy, healthy, and resilient youth, adults, and families. Today, we are talking with Giselle of Kids Yoga Stories. Welcome, Giselle.
Thank you so much, Sally. It's so great to be with you.
I'm so happy that we're spending this time together today.
I know it feels like the old days when we were together at the National Kids Yoga Conference, right? And just be able to have a cup of tea and hang out and share, collaborate. I love it.
Yes, I love it too. I remember first meeting you, and you had this elaborate table with your books all set out, and I went and met you, and I was just in awe of everything that you had
Oh,
created.
thank
So
you. Thank you very
here we
much.
are. Yes, a good 10 plus years later, still doing
Yes, I know, right? Yeah.
this.
That's what happens when you got the fire in the belly, right? It keeps you going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, would you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how you came to find yoga and mindfulness, how you incorporated it into your life? Just tell us everything in a 2-minute commercial.
Right, awesome. So I started yoga with my mom. I grew up in the middle of Canada, and she had a TV show that she used to watch, a German yoga teacher, and so I actually found her book on eBay years and years later. So we used to practice yoga then, and then when I was in my 20s, I was traveling. I was living overseas as a teacher, and I'd come home and go to my mom's yoga classes. So she really was my muse. And then I took yoga teacher training when I was living in Sydney, Australia, back in 2004. And at that moment, you have those moments where you think, oh my gosh, if I could have brought this work into my classrooms, unbelievable, right? So I'd been traveling and teaching internationally for over 10 years at that point. And so these stories just came out of me, like in the middle of the night. I'd wake up, and the first ones I wrote was Anna and the Rainbow Color Yoga Mats and Sophia's Jungle Adventure. And I wanted a way to integrate movement and story and travel and sort of bring all my passions. I'm obsessed, Sally, with children's books. Obsessed. Like even now my daughter's grown up, and I still always end up at a bookstore in the children's section. That's just the way I am. So I started this business Kids Yoga Stories, when she was 9 months old. And the stories had been in my computer for whatever, 10 years at that point. And I thought, I'm just going to do something for myself and give her something like a legacy, whatever. And then I start to share these books with friends and family and people, colleagues. And then it just snowballed from there. And we can talk about that as we go along. But yeah, 12 years ago. It's just been amazing journey.
Amazing. You're so talented. I love your book so much. And I'm so glad that you chose to share your stories with the world.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so kind of you. Yeah, I love it. And what's funny, as a side note, I'm actually I have a mathematical mind. I actually have a math degree with my education degree. So I am not a natural author. Like if you told me years ago that I would be running a company and writing, I would never have believed you. So all that to say is, like, you got to find your thing, right? Something that you're really interested in and that you love, and you can get people to help you execute it, right? So I have a great editor, but the ideas are there, so
Mhm.
something to think about.
Well, that's a great segue into what we are going to talk about today, because you are going to help new yoga teachers build a path to their next steps after they take a teacher training. So,
Excellent.
what we really want to talk about is um, how to create a yoga program within a community after someone takes a kids yoga teacher training.
Awesome.
So it's really easy now to sign up for a training. There are so many offered online, so many different schools to choose from, and there's so much information in a teacher training, and there are business topics, and um, it sometimes sounds easier than it really is. And having a step-by-step method can be helpful. So say Susie Yogi just
Mm,
took a teacher training.
yeah.
We use my hometown, Winthrop, Maine. Now what do I do?
Right. Yeah, excellent. That's perfectly said, Sally. What we found from our community over the years, exactly what you said. I didn't want to create another kids yoga training because, like you said, there's so many great ones out there. But what we heard from our community over and over again, and we used to do a lot of surveys and talk to our audience, and what we heard is exactly what you said. They finished kids yoga teacher training and they were stuck on what to do next, how to implement it, how to get it into the schools, how to get into their communities. So what the first thing for us to think about, and this is what I did when I started Kids Yoga Stories too, is um, we talk about this Venn diagram, right? This intersection. The first one we want to be thinking about is our skills, right? So this is what you can do, what you're really, really good at, right? And so I think about when I started Kids Yoga Stories, like I said, I love picture books. So that was something that was really passionate to me. And I was really interested in how are we going to bring yoga and mindfulness, this ancient history, into the classrooms. So that was me from a teaching point of view. So I knew what made me unique is my passion about, traveling, my teaching. I've just become a mom, so those are my skills. Okay. And I knew that I'm a strong vata. You'll probably tell while I'm talking. I've got lots of creative ideas, but I also have a strong kapha as well. So that's that mathematical mind. I'm very consistent. I've been doing this for, like we said, over 10 years, and I do a newsletter every Thursday, every single Thursday for 12 years, right? And so I know that about myself. That's a skill that I have, is I'm very disciplined, right? And then the next one is thinking about my passion. So as we go through this, obviously think about from your point of view, right? As you're listening, my passion, what are you really passionate about? Right. And so that intersection of your skills. So you might be thinking about, I'm really passionate about, I don't know, snowboarding, but I don't yet have the skills. Right. So that's going to be a concern, right? Something to learn. And then your next one is the audience. This is really important for kids yoga teachers. Thinking about what the market will buy, right? What the market will buy. So important. So many people, we go through the teacher training, right? We've got a passion for yoga and health and mindfulness, but there isn't a market nearby for what we're offering, right? Super key. We have these visions and stories and ideas, but if it's not available, if we're getting no's every time we go places, we talk to a community center or whatever, right? That's going to be an issue, right? But it's those three things together. So say your passion may be about maybe the market, you're speaking to a principal and they say, you know what, we're really interested in breathing practices. Like I was talking to Colleen Smith, your colleague there, and in New York, they're mandated to add breathing techniques into the classrooms, right? So you might be saying, okay, that's what the school will pay for, is for someone to come and do breathing morning announcements, for example. It's definitely my passion. I've done the kids yoga teacher training. I can do that, right? But if you coming in with, I only want to do physical asana or physical postures, and that's not where they want to pay you for, that's where you're going to get in trouble, right? It's the intersection of those three places. So now let's think about, how do we design, going back to Susie Yogi, right? So how are we going to design our own yoga programs? So again, thinking about when we started our school yoga program, putting it together, we, as you talked about, step by step, we come from this point of view of it's a step by step plan, but also, so it's the very logical left brain, but also there's the right brain, the feminine side, about there's some intuition here. So as we go through this, it can be quite prescriptive. However, allow yourself time to marinate and also listen to your inner voice and to your gut feeling about what feels right, right? So thinking about this, right? So the first one is why. We always start with the why. So let's think about Susie Yogi. So why might she want to bring a yoga program to her community, for example? Let's think about it.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Uh, well, Susie Yogi remembers going to PE class and sports were not her thing. And she feels it would be beneficial to add a yoga program for others like her.
So they're probably working on strength,
Flexibility,
strength. Yep.
focus, calming the
Body
nervous
awareness.
system,
Yep. All that. Exactly. Right.
build community.
Right. And so this why can be first, you could think about it for yourself, but in conversations with, other parents in town or the principals, other teachers, if that's going to be a local business that you want to start, or if you want to think globally, then start to ask other people that you know in other places, right? So whether your business is going to be an online business like ours or whether it's going to be a local community, but in any case, that why is what drives you, right? Sally, you and I have talked about, many of us have done this for a while, and that's what gets us up every day. Our why is like our North Star. And it helps us also get through all these obstacles. It helped us get through COVID, the pandemic, the differences in people management, in staff, all kinds of different obstacles that we all go through. But also as a kids yoga teacher, that the obstacles you might get, or how do I get buy-in? How do I sign up my classes? How do I fill my classes? How do I deal with the behavior in the classes, right? All that, if you've got this why super clear, that's going to guide you through all of that, right? Would you
Yes,
agree?
absolutely, 100%.
So the next one is who. So let's think about the who here. Who are we going to be serving? So you might be looking at the passion and the skills. You might see that there's an opportunity for high school, but that's not your thing. Like I just saw an ad for a yoga instructor for teachers. That might not be your thing. There's an offer there, but what's your passion? What's your skill, right? So who do you want to serve? So Susie, what do you think she might be interested in? What age group?
Well, if Susie just took a yoga and mindfulness for children training, then Susie would like to focus on K through 5.
Perfect. All right, so that's about 5 to 11 or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could drill that down into the demographics, the economic status, the cultures, thinking really, putting that in your mind, visualizing what you show up and what are your children going to be looking like, right? And all of us it will look a lot different. What's additional needs? Some of us are niching into special needs as children, working with special needs children. Some of us are with foster children. Some are working with refugees. So, getting clear about who you work best with, especially when you're just starting out, you want to work with a population that you feel comfortable with, right? And it's going to come through in your teaching and your confidence. Does that make sense?
It does. And homeschool groups are another one that is important to keep in mind as well. So maybe being in a public school setting is not your thing. It's too loud, it's too bright for some people.
Yeah.
And working with homeschoolers is a good option.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's fantastic. In fact, I'm interviewing someone this afternoon about how to bring yoga into homeschool. So I'll have to share that with you. I love it.
Yes, please.
Awesome. So the next one is the how. How are we going to do this? So how are we going to integrate yoga and mindfulness? So actually, let's start with the what. Let's go over here. We can still see this on the screen. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So the what is important because, again, it starts with us. Okay. Again, we're going to be teaching what we're connected with. So if you're someone who doesn't, meditation isn't a thing. for you yet, right? It's not what you're really interested in. It's not what you're calling to. You're more of, you love power yoga. You love doing the intense classes. You love a good sweat, all that kind of thing. So follow that with the children, right? So if you're going to put yourself in a situation of public school leading to meditation, that might not be the right fit for you to start, right? Whereas in a PE class, if you're used to and you love the sporty, stretchy part of yoga, that kind of thing, then do that to get started. And then you can weave in the ancient wisdom as you go along in a way that suits you. Does that make sense? So with our what, thinking about, oh, see, now my brain wants that pink. So the what, it could be, the yoga postures. It could be yoga games, right? Does that make sense for Susie?
Sure does.
Yeah. Anything else we could add here?
Um, uh, Breathing.
Yeah. So she could be doing breathing practices at the beginning and the end, relaxation at the end, right?
Right. More active because it matches her energy level. That makes perfect sense. So many people, especially new teachers, or if you're subbing for a teacher, initially, I've done it myself initially, and I see other people do it. You try to be that other teacher, or you try to imitate another teacher, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel good in your own body for you, and it just doesn't um, it doesn't emanate, is that the right word, out into the
Absolutely.
class.
Yeah.
And over time, you learn to show up and just be yourself, and students will come to you. They will find you. They'll like
So
you
true.
for your teaching.
It's so true. So
Mhm.
true. So
Yep.
true. So finding our unique voice, that is so true because
Yes.
we may follow people online or see videos, whatever, and you might think, that's the way it has to be. Like sometimes from our online business point of view, I see these gorgeous videos and, these beautiful, like beautiful teachers, right? Or I see moms and kids, together practicing yoga. And I think that's just not, that's not me. My daughter, like, there's no way we would be on Instagram on the cover of a magazine. And I'm just not that way.
Me
So
either.
right, whereas I'm a teacher at heart, so that you have to find your voice and own that. I totally agree.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that's the how, right? Is really spending some time thinking about what makes you you, right? And as you said, I think about right now, I'm teacher subbing, and I've always had my own classroom, so this is a little bit uncomfortable for me to be a sub, but I realize I am not a drill sergeant, and some of the other subs are, right? And I just think I have to be my own way. I'm much more calm, and that's just the way. I can't, especially now at our age, right? There's no way I can just take on being a drill sergeant. The children would know instantly that I wasn't being authentic. And as you say, that you get to be known for the way that you are. So I couldn't agree with you more there. So thinking more about the how. So how's this going to look for you? Um, yeah, diving deep into that. And then the next one is about where. This is really important because it can be overlooked. What does the space look like? Because we often hear people talking about, well, I don't know where it's going to be, what the space is going to look like, whatever. It sort of becomes a barrier. But when you stop and think about it, okay, well, if this is what I want to focus in on, is working with PE classes, I'm going to be in the gym, right?
Yes.
So I don't have to think about, do I have to go rent a studio? Do I have to, whatever. If that's what you want to do, that's going to narrow in. So you don't need to spend a whole bunch of time on trying to find studios or spaces outside if gym is where you're going to be at, right? And then also thinking about the how, in terms of working with schools, you might find that either you're going to put together a proposal, right? To the principal, or you might actually find funding. We have a mini course on how to find funding, and you can do a search, heaps of places where you can find funding here in the States or globally too. But thinking about that, what does your proposal look like? And this is what we go deeper into our school yoga program of each of these components. But thinking about there, where does that space look like? And sometimes in the gym too, thinking about the challenges in a large gym. So for example, when I was subbing recently in a PE class, we did we did four corners, and one of them I put dots out, those little yoga dots, and they played freeze tag, and then they did a tree pose and melted and counted to three, and then were able to jump off. So things like that, you can also just incorporate yoga into, just make the usual games that they play and just make them yoga friendly, right? But thinking about what's your space going to look like? Are there other classrooms that might be coming and going? What are the interruptions? What's the sound like? How are you going to give directions in such a big space? All those kinds of things in terms of the where. And then in terms of schools, are you going to be going just to public schools, private schools? How big's your radius, right? How many people are you going to speak to? How many classes can you do? Because you don't want to be driving from here to there in your small town Maine, right? Thinking about Susie, is she going to be able to drive to all the places? What about when it snows? Like right now, can she get to all the places? Is she going to carry her mats with her? Do they have mats there? That kind of thing. Does that make sense with the where?
Sure does. Yes.
Anything else you want to add to that?
One thing I've learned after teaching in schools is we, as the teachers, we may expect to show up and teach in the gym, and then something's happening in the gym. So you end up in the cafeteria, you end up in the library. They're on a field trip, so you show up and there are no students to teach. Flexibility of mind is so important. There are a lot of surprises that pop up.
So good. So good. And then don't you notice the different times of the year too, if it's like before Halloween or before after a break, or there's
Yeah.
lots of things to be thinking about, being flexible and having your main plan, but also having some backup plans, right?
Bag of tricks,
Yes.
always. Yeah.
Yes. And that's to think about the behavior management too. So you want to be making a plan for your behavior, um, class management, behavior plan. And again, we go into a lot more detail in our school yoga program, but that's just a start. And then the last one here is about the when. So what time of the day are you going to be doing it during the class time? What do you think Susie would be asking for during a PE class, or do you think she's going to do after school club, or what do you think she might be interested in?
Susie would like to do it during PE class, perhaps as an introduction or a unit. It could turn into a before or after school yoga club, depending on Susie's life.
Yeah. I'm working with a middle school wellness teacher here, and she's doing yoga units. So she does, with the middle school, they have blocks, like 2-week blocks for each. So they'll do basketball, then Zumba, and then yoga. And so that might be an idea once you understand, what, if she's willing to go a bit older, or depends on what the units are at that, you might integrate into the yoga unit. You might be the instructor for the yoga unit, for example. So you'd have a block of those 2 weeks. Or, whether you want to collaborate with the PE teacher and sort of model it, so then you're passing it on to them, or if you want to come in and do it yourself, right? So you want to be thinking about that, right? Does this all make sense?
Beautiful. Yes,
Do you have
very well laid out.
do you have anything else to add?
We've got the who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Can you think of any other obstacles? So this is just a little snippet, but if you go through this by yourselves, and it helps us to narrow in and focus, right? One of the sutras is about coming into a single focus, and I think that's so important. It can be so overwhelming of knowing where to start, and this is hopefully going to help us get more specific on what we want to offer, right? Start with something that you feel comfortable with.
Yes. So one uh, point that people bring up, or one question that people bring up quite often, um, and you brought it up, is as far as submitting a proposal or finding a contact person. That can be a big challenge. It's very helpful if you're already in the school or school system, or you have a contact point person in the school or the district. If you don't, it can be very challenging and frustrating to find that contact person. Do you have some advice on that topic?
Yeah, I so agree. It's something we hear about all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely, we've heard from our community that preschools are easier to get into. There's more flexibility there for sure. And as you say, the biggest way is to find someone you know. We have a start your side hustle mini course, and we talk exactly about that. We talk about that inside, so thinking about all your friends and family, and then that next step of who else in your community is sort of an acquaintance, and then build out that way. So working with people and expanding. As soon as you start to share, even on social media, saying, here's what I'm thinking to do, does anyone have any connections or ideas? People want to help people, generally speaking, right?
Mhm.
And so if you just ask and say, once you're clear on what you're looking for, right, and what you're looking to do, you could say, who has some contacts from some PE teachers in the area, for example, within half an hour of where you live. That's a great place to start. You'll be amazed of thinking, oh, I didn't know someone, so and so and so and so and so, right? That's going to be your in. And I agree. I think I'm fortunate because I have a master's of education. I was a teacher, or I'm currently. So I think that helps. I do think the education system, generally speaking, there's always exceptions, generally speaking, likes to work with people who have an educational background. But
Mhm.
again, to get in, if you know somebody and they know your credentials or what your background is, that's your way in for sure. Yeah. And we have a whole module on funding and proposal writing. So we've got lots of examples, and we help people through that whole process. I used to be on president of the PTO, the Parent Teacher Association. So I would get proposals from like we had one from Mindfulness Teacher and that kind of thing. So I've got lots of different examples and writing tips on how to put all that together. So
Excellent, Giselle. This has
yeah,
been so helpful. I appreciate
great,
it so very much.
great.
So, how can people reach out, find you, find your courses? Tell us all about that.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're Kids Yoga Stories. So my email is Giselle, Giselle, at kidsyogastories.com. Our website, Kids Yoga Stories. We're on social, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. So yeah, we'd love to speak. Feel free to ask me any questions if about this or our school yoga program, whatever we can do to help. We are here, and we love Child Light. So thank you so much for this opportunity to chat together, and highly recommend taking Child Light training for sure. Amazing program, and you're amazing bunch of women.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much, and we hope everyone will reach out and sign up for your weekly Thursday newsletter for sure. It comes into my inbox every
Yes,
week. I look forward to it.
thank you.
I appreciate your time and all of your knowledge. Until next time, I know we'll be in touch.
Definitely.
And thank you all for watching. Take good care and
Thank
do
you.
good things out there.
Thanks, Sally.
Bye.